Ideally, I hope no one ever uses my product. That would be the best. No one ever uses my product because nothing ever happens. Nobody ever needs an emergency. Nobody ever dials 911. But then if they do dial 911, I'm glad that our solution is the one that's behind it to make sure that the best possible outcome happens. And again, we can't do this all by ourselves. It's not just a 911 secure thing. We have bandwidth.com, obviously RapidSOS. You guys provide a tremendous amount of value. And that's on just the phone system side. Like what Ian was saying about the new part. And the thing that we're so excited about is our GeoCell service, where literally somebody makes an 911 call on a campus and they have a cell phone, Apple or Android device, obviously. We can alert on-site security and say, hey, here's where the call is coming from. And here's a little circle of the area of confidence. And the person doesn't have to opt in. They don't have to download any app. It's almost unbelievable technology. It's like, is this really happening? Because I said earlier, I've been doing this for 20 years. And one of the very, very first phone calls that I was ever on was, it's great that you can do this for the phone system, but what if somebody makes an 911 call from a cell phone? And it was always like, wah, wah, sorry, there's nothing we can do. When we heard that this was actually a possibility, obviously with you guys in the backbone of this, it was just like, all right, here's the holy grail. The holy grail of 911 has been solved.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Safety Gap Podcast. I'm your co-host, Cassidy. Karen's with me today. Karen, how you doing?
I'm good. Good. It's a cold, chilly day in Denver.
And you're not traveling this week. You have a big event in Denver, which is exciting, I'm sure, for you.
It is very exciting. And technically, I'm not traveling, but still having to be away from home downtown for a long time. But I'm very excited because there's a lot of people that are coming to town for the International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference, and we will be there right in the middle of all of the activity. Excited to be welcoming folks to the Mile High City.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. Look forward to hearing about it. And it's like all weekend, right? All weekend in the next week?
Yeah, it runs through next Tuesday.
Wow. All right. Well, you have a busy weekend.
Very busy weekend.
Well, why don't we welcome our guests? Ian and Kevin, how you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having us.
Fantastic. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having us. We're really looking forward to this conversation. What we tend to like to do is start with just hearing a little bit about yourself and where you work. So, Ian, let's start with you. I'd love to have you share a little bit more about, Give Kids the World, how you ended up there, kind of the mission, et cetera. I found it fascinating and I'd love for you to kind of share that with the audience.
Absolutely. So Give Kids the World is an 89-acre fairy tale themed village in Kissimmee, Florida. So just up the street from the theme parks. And what we do is we fulfill wishes. So when a critically ill child wishes to come to Central Florida and visit Disney, Universal, SeaWorld, all the attractions that Central Florida has to offer, their wish granting organization sends them to us. And we provide all of the lodging in fairy tale villas, all the food, all the theme park tickets. We work with all of our different partners to give them a week-long cost-free vacation that can really just let them be a family, create some great memories, have a lot of fun together. And it's a really, really good thing to see the families, away from the hospitals, away from the doctors, just going and doing normal family stuff, hitting the theme parks. And it's always great to run into the families here on the campus and just, hear about their day and where they're headed and what they're doing. It's a really good thing. Really good thing.
We were talking about this, Karen and I would say, at RapidSOS, we obviously the mission that we're on and so forth is extremely rewarding. But man, that has to be amazing. I mean, when I hear about an organization like that and working there and just kind of what you're doing, obviously must be motivational to get up every day and kind of go to work.
You said it. That is literally it. That I don't ever wake up like, why do I do this? Like, I'm that person that, like, the moment I wake up, the to-do list pops into my head, and then, all of the existential stuff, right? And there's just not a day where you wake up wondering if it makes a difference, right? And the fact that our sort of corporate side, the IT and HR and all of that stuff is also located here on the same campus as the families, means that literally, like, I walk downstairs to get lunch and I'm talking to families and hearing their stories. And it's really, I made a shift from corporate America into nonprofit to be healthier for myself. And you're absolutely right that mission goes a long way to do it towards that. And I'm a very mission driven person, and I like having meaning in my work. And so, as you mentioned, I'm sure with your work, like, you're saving lives. Like, there's no question about that. And you can talk about it in a very, practical way, and we can see the difference that we're making with these families. And then we, just the feedback that we get, we do customer service, surveys, customer sat surveys, just like everyone else does. And to hear about what was really meaningful for the families, and how it made a difference for them is just a very good thing.
You're the chief innovation officer, and you mentioned you came from probably a private enterprise into nonprofit. What does that mean you do day in and day out? It sounds really cool for a great organization. How do those two kind of come together?
Yeah, innovation's one of those big words that's overloaded, means different things to everyone, right? At its core, I have some day-to-day responsibility, right? So I manage all of our technology, from our things you'd expect, desktops, laptops, phones, servers, network, that type of thing, into information security. But I also get the fun of managing our entertainment and show technology as well. So that gets into everything from microphones and amplifiers and speakers over to programmed shows. And we've got a full theater, we've got a spa, we've got an ice cream shop, we've got a castle, a fairy tale themed castle that has a fantastic experience in it with Stellar, our Star Fairy. Every child that comes in, every wish child gets a star, and they decorate that star and they give that star to Stellar, the Star Fairy, and it's hung in the castle, and it's just a fantastic thing. And I've always liked to know how things work, right? I'm a tinkerer in my personal life. And so getting to not only work on the kind of strategy, more corporate stuff, you do the information security pieces because it's important and you have to do it. But then you also get to go have a little fun and work with an animatronic or a show. So I also manage our capital and construction projects, as well as some other functions around the village. But at its core, throughout my career, I've largely managed change, right? So organizations are always trying to do something new. Quite often that intersects with technology, and that's where I bring the tech to the table for that. But also there's change management and just understanding, what's the customer want? What do our staff need? We have a very, very large volunteer population here. So we typically run somewhere in the range of 1,300 to 1,500 volunteer shifts every week, right? So that's another stakeholder group that when we think about doing something new, we have to think about how does that impact them? How do we communicate? What do we do? So again, it's a bit of a nebulous word, but often I'm working on just how do we get a little better every day at what we do, and provide a better experience for all of our stakeholders.
Yeah, you mentioned. I appreciate that, by the way, and you mentioned the 13 to 1400 volunteer shifts a week. Paint us a little bit of picture of how many kids and families are there, how much full time staff. I mean, this is quite the operation.
Yep. So we're an 89-acre campus. So for those who don't really do acres, that's about the size of some of the theme parks in Central Florida. And it's basically like the size of like an 80-home subdivision if it also had a central core of a big community pool and community buildings and all of that. So some days it feels like I'm helping run the technology for a theme park. Other days it feels like I'm running it for a small subdivision of a bunch of homes. We have 166 guest rooms. So in theory, we can have 166 families here at one time. But we don't say no. So if we are overbooked, we will actually help a family stay in a partner hotel and still provide all the same services to them. And that was, coming out of big hospitality. I worked for Starwood and Marriott for years. The idea that, like, you don't check availability first, you say yes first, and then you figure the rest out. That's a really different mind shift in how things operate. And our partners are fantastic. You know, all the theme parks and many other hospitality partners really work together to make it happen. Um, and so you asked about numbers. You know, you take that 166 rooms and you say 5 to 6 people, and easily you're looking at 1,000 guests here when we're at capacity. Our staff ranges. Right now we're probably in the 185, 190 range, and a very large percentage of those are frontline staff. Right, so they are out directly interacting with guests, checking them in, preparing food. We've got an entertainment team that helps with, you know, everything from characters to that star experience that I mentioned. And then you've got your more kind of corporate style teams, you know, IT, HR, finance. We've got, as a nonprofit, we've got a fundraising and marketing team. So it's, you know, on any given day, there's a few staff and a lot of volunteers and a lot of families if we've got the ratio right. And it's really just a lot of people working together to just create a great experience.
Yeah, what an amazing, impressive operation. So Kevin, while we pull you into conversation, obviously a wonderful partner of both IANS and RapidSOS, president of 911 Secure. Love to hear a little bit about 911 Secure and kind of your background on kind of origin story of the company and yourself.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Kevin Kito. Yeah, I been in this industry for about 20 years, doing enhanced 911. And, I want to kind of echo some of the statements that Ian made about the campus. Was it maybe 2, 3 years ago? We were at a conference in Orlando, and my wife and I had planned a trip that, all right, well, at the end of the conference, the wife and the kids will fly out. We'll go to do Disney and all the parks and stuff. And I had talked to Ian there at the conference, and I was like, "Hey, it'd be really cool if we could come by." And he was like, "Oh yeah, definitely, come on by." And it was a really cool experience. And just so you know, and I apologize in advance, I cry all the time. I am such a baby. It's just terrible. But even like right now, I'm starting to well up thinking about the experience that we had with my wife and kids, to be able to go there and see the campus and see the star experience and get ice cream at the place. It was just a really cool experience. And my kids were just like, afterwards, they were just like, wow, it's kind of like seeing it in action, because I just sit in my office and I'm doing what I'm doing, and actually to see what we're doing in action was really a fun experience. But anyhow, going back to Now Insecure and kind of the origin story of our company. I worked at one company doing enhanced 911 for about 12 years, and then it was sold to another company, and I went over with the move, and that just wasn't a fit for me. The new company, they were a large company, and it just felt like it was not something that I wanted to do with how their solution worked, and also the not the pay structure, but the how they charge customers. It was just like not a good fit for me. There was actually one day where I'd been working there for probably about 8 or 9 months, and I had done a presentation for a school district, and I thought that the charges were higher than I wanted them to be, and I was like, and I did the presentation anyway, and I went to my manager and I said, "Hey, can we do something? This is a organization that it's like 98% free student lunches. Could we almost give them the solution? Like, let's just, or at least reduce the cost a dramatic amount." And they're like, no, that's not what we're about. And I was like, okay, fine. So I did the presentation, and then it was one, usually in this industry, the sales cycle is very long, because you have to get into the budget, it has to get approved, and then it's got to go all through this thing. So it's like, 6 months is about the minimum. Usually it's 9 months or even over a year. And this one was, I did the presentation, and I guess I did a good job, even though I wasn't really trying, to be honest. But I did the presentation, and just a couple weeks later, I got a purchase order in my inbox, and I saw it, and I was just like disheartened. I was like, went out to get a cup of coffee, and my wife at the time was a stay-at-home mom, and she saw me, and she was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "Well, that school district that I was working with." And she's like, "Yeah." She's like, I was like, she's like, "What happened? Did they go with somebody else?" And I was like, "No." And then she goes, "Oh, they decided to do nothing." Because that's what I lose to more than anything. Like, nothing is the best sales guy in the world. He gets the awards and all the accolades all the time.
We compete against the same guy.
Exactly. That guy is just, I don't know. We need to go to his seminar or something because he just kills it. But anyway, I said, nope. And she goes, well, wait a second. There's only one other option. You won the business. And I said, yeah. And she goes, you know, you're a commissioned salesperson. That's how you get paid. And that's how we are able to keep the lights on and everything. And I was like, yeah, well, I mean, she knew I had been, talking to her about it. And she goes, that's it. You have to quit. She's like, doesn't make any sense. It's like the whole point of your job, you actually get it. And you look like our dog just died. It's like, come on. And so I ended up putting in my notice and left that company. And I was planning, in my previous life, I used to work at Verizon Wireless. And I was like, I'm going to go back to that. I had a lot of fun doing that. And I still knew some people there, even though it had been a long time. There was this company that we had partnered with before at the old company. And my last day, or after my last day at the company that purchased us, I called them up and just said, hey, just sorry, I haven't talked to you for the last 9 months. They was told, you're a competitor. I'm not supposed to talk to you guys. And I was like, well, why don't you come work here? And I was like, let me go talk to my wife again. So she was like, hey, you always like those people. Why don't you go do that? And so I was like, all right, well, let's go do that. Well, shortly thereafter, after I started, they declared Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And then on my wife's birthday, and it was a Friday the 13th, to kicker, we were on a call at like 5 o'clock in the morning, my time, because I'm out here in LA and they were over on the East Coast. We get on a call with one of our partners and they were like, yeah, this is the last day we're going to be in business. We're shutting the doors. And we're like, what? And so I went and told my wife, I was like, hey, happy birthday. I don't have a job anymore. So I had talked to her about, this company's in trouble. If this company's in trouble, why don't we try and start to do something on our own? And so the following Monday, I gathered up the employees that worked at that company, and we just got on a call. And it was funny. One of the gals, our tech support person at the time, Debbie Cohn, she was like, oh, Kevin, so when do we start? And I was like, what are you talking about? Because I had put the meeting together as just a, hey, it's a goodbye. And she goes, I know why you're doing this. And I was like, what do you think? And Dan Goslin, who's my partner, he's the technology guy. He runs the whole technology side of the business. I always call myself, I'm the dumb sales guy. I was literally just on a call and I was like, I'm the dumb sales guy. And Dan Goslin, he's our guru on the other side. And we started the company and then the rest is history. It was, we hit the ground running. My wife and I literally had a home equity line of credit on our house. We didn't even get a business loan. We just put up our house. You hear about people doing that. We literally did put up our house. If this didn't work out, I don't know, I think we'd be living with my parents or my in-laws or something. But I mean, the thing was, I was never really nervous because I knew that there was a spot for us in the space, because I knew the other companies and I knew what their motivation was. And our motivation is to try and get as many customers as we possibly can so that we can protect as many people as we can. That's the motivation of our company. I mean, we have a Monday call at the beginning of the week, and we have everybody on the call. And every once in a while, I'll say, hey, just remember why we're here. We're here to make sure that somebody makes a 911 call, that the call gets routed to the right place, they get the right location information, people are notified on site that the call has been made, and that person is either resting comfortably in a hospital or they're at home with their families. This is the best possible outcome, that their needs are met as quickly as possible. And so that's kind of it in a nutshell. And here we are 7.5, almost 8 years later, and having a lot of fun. One more thing, going back to what Ian said about waking up in the morning and going, oh gosh, what am I doing? I wake up in the morning and just going, I get to do better, and I get to do something that really is changing lives. Like I said, going from the cell phone industry where it's like you're just selling phones and anybody can do that, to doing this, it really is a lot of fun.
Man, that's an incredible story. Congratulations. I love hearing entrepreneurs and how they just get started. And again, the mission's incredible. So hats off to you and your organization. So maybe I'd ask, so you Kevin and Ian, you tell us, how did you two get together?
Yeah, it was Avaya. So Avaya donates the phone system and a lot of support to the village. So you can imagine we've got 166 guest rooms. So that's 166 hospitality phones, not to mention all the rest of the phones around. It's a big campus. And so Avaya did a donation in 2019, maybe 2018. Before I started, I actually started in 2019, and the phone system project was already underway. And so I was not a phone guy. So I had to learn about E911 compliance and all the different regulations, and started to have this realization of, oh, wait, we are not compliant. Like there is legislation that applies to us, and we need to get this figured out. And so we were having a chat with Avaya, and really using them as a mentor in the space to say, hey, how would you do this? What would this look like? We also get a lot of support from Disney and their telecommunications team. And so along the way, our Avaya salesperson at the time, Bob Gio, connected us with the 911 secure team. And then I think it turned into like a, hey, are you going to be at the Avaya conference? And let's go meet up, and had a great conversation with Kevin. I think I spent half the day at his booth. We just kept talking. And the more we were talking, you kind of connect with somebody. It's actually funny, Kevin, because I got another story for you, because my wife gave me the same epiphany to leave my last job. So I think this whole call is actually sponsored by our wives.
Yeah, they get all the credit for sure.
We should give them the credit. So, but then, and like Kevin told the story of their team came out to see the village, and the village is it's very scenically striking, right? Like it's a very, very beautiful campus, fairy tale inspired. Big mushroom carousel attached to our castle. It's got like the giant beanstalk on it, so it's beautiful. But then you also get to see the families. And so as Kevin mentioned, it does have an emotional impact on people when they get here. And it's a very easy to help people see how they could use their skills as a volunteer or their products as a partner. And I love connecting people with their passion. So I spend a lot of time helping people learn how to professionally volunteer. That was a long journey for me. I never intended to be in nonprofits, but once I kind of figured out how to volunteer and use my professional skills to help nonprofits, one thing led to another. But I think it's also really neat when you can help a company connect their product and help their employees see how their product makes a difference. And then, so Kevin and team went through a very long process with us as we were going through a very big upgrade on our Avaya system, and the 911 secure team kind of stuck with us through that whole process. And then the moment we were ready on the phone system side, they jumped in and really helped us understand. I thought it was just going to be configure a few things, but really it's about, hey, you've got to get this first responder to the right place on a very large campus that has multiple secure entry gates. How are you going to do that? And so we also got very lucky. We had hired a new director of safety, security, and compliance around the same time. So he plugged in, and they mapped out the whole property, and we got to learn lots of, abbreviations and technical terms. But at the end of the day, what happens now is that someone on our campus dials 911, and our first responders get here very quickly, and they get to the right place. And our team knows that it's happening and can be there often before the first responders are even on site. They can be at the gates to make sure that they're in. And so that's a level of comfort for us. These families have some pretty significant things that they're working through. And, sometimes a 911 call is unfortunately a kid playing with the phone, right? But we know where it is and we know who to go talk to, right? Sometimes it is, a sunburn. And you're like, wait, a sunburn? But when you've got a critically ill child, you've been in and out of hospitals, your standard of care is a little different, right? And your concern as a parent is going to be a little different. And so many of them work out great. but sometimes they do need the first responders. And so for our team, there's kind of a quiet confidence of just knowing the pieces are in place and we can do everything we need to do to help that family. And so we've had that in place for, I want to say, going on 2 years now, Kevin. I could have the dates wrong. But then the team came back and said, but wait, there's more. And, Kevin calls me up and he's like, hey, I've got this new product and I've been telling you for a while, we're going to be able to tell you when somebody uses a cell phone to call 911 on your campus. And I'm like, really? And you would not believe how excited our team got when I told them that, because in the past, if someone called 911, we'd have a first responder waiting at the gate, right? And all of that process that we have in place breaks down. But now we can handle it either way. And again, it's a confidence knowing that if something challenging does happen, that we're responding to make it the best that we can, and we can get them the care that we need. And we just have some amazing local first responders. We've really built that partnership up, and it's really neat to see what everybody can do when they're working together.
That's a great explanation. There's a few ways I want to take this. I'm going to come back to the first responder, but maybe Kevin, if you could help break down a little bit of like how this works and why it's necessary technically. If I'm a layperson might say, listen, you pick up the phone, you call 911. Like everybody, why don't they know where to go? I think it's kind of assumed as a general population that the first responder knows where to go. And it's a little bit more challenging than that. So I'd love you to kind of maybe break down both maybe the work and how and the challenges with the Avaya kind of, I assume, as a landline versus like the mobile phone.
Yeah, since we all grew up, with actual landline phones in our house, all you had to do is pick up the phone and dial 911, and you didn't even need to say anything; they would show up at your house, right? That's kind of one of the reasons why I got into this industry. Is my nephew, who's what is he, 29 now? So this was about almost 30, close to 30 years ago. My older sister, she's diabetic, and when she had him, she was having all kinds of complications with her diabetes, and we had always had somebody with her, either her husband or my mom or somebody was always with her. But there was this one period where she was going to be, or she was alone, and we had played this game with my nephew, and his name is Jeremy, and dial 911 and do this. If you do it, if mom is like sleeping and she won't wake up, you can pick up the phone and dial 911, and just in case. It's just like a game, and we were like not even sure if it was actually going to happen or not, but he got a cookie, right? If he did the job, he got a cookie. And there just happened to be this one particular day where she was alone for about 4 hours, and in that 4 hours she had a bad reaction. She passed out on the kitchen floor, and he went over and he tried to wake her up, and she didn't wake up. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna go get my cookie. So he went and dialed 911, and he's like, where's my cookie? But they took the cookie. But police, fire, and ambulance showed up at the door, broke the door down. It was pretty scared. He was like hiding underneath the bed. So it was probably pretty traumatizing for him. But it was neat that he was able to do this, even though he was a small child and had no idea even be able to speak about what his address was or anything like that. And so, yeah, that's what everybody just kind of thinks. You dial 911 because you hear stories of dogs dialing 911. I've heard of parrots dialing 911 and people get help. And so when I tell people what I do, they're like, wait a second. Like the first time I told my wife's sister's husband, my brother-in-law, what I do, he's like, well, wait a second. He works for a city and he's in a couple story building. He's like, wait a second. So if I dial 911, they're not going to know what I'm at. And I was like, actually, I knew the city and I'm not going to call them out by name, but I knew that the 911 call was going to be actually transmitting an address that was a couple of miles away. It's a large city. I'm here in Southern California, so you can kind of guess which one it might be. Anyway, so anyhow, I said, yeah, that's what everybody thinks. Everybody thinks you just pick up a phone, you dial 911, they're going to know exactly where you are. And the problem with when you're behind a phone system, and Avaya is one that brought us in, but really all phone systems have this issue where if you dial 911, the location information that the 911 operator is going to get is basically the address of wherever the main list billing telephone number is located at. And so sometimes that could be in the wrong state. Like we have a customer in the Boston area where they have sites all over the United States and even in Canada. And if they didn't have our solution in place, if somebody dialed 911 and they were here in Southern California, and they made the 911 call, it would actually go to a Boston 911 center. And the 911 operator would basically, they can't just go boop, 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 boop. Let me transfer your call to Irvine or Sacramento or wherever. They basically just say, hey, you need to go find another phone and make a 911 call from that device. And so instead, we have partnership with a company called bandwidth.com where they help us to route the call, get it routed to the correct 911 center that services the address that where the person's actually calling from. We have some software that does some IP discovery called Sentry that tracks when phone moves. So if somebody picks up a phone over here or logs out of a phone over here, or if somebody's working from home, that's the big thing after COVID. There was, a lot of companies that we worked with, there was like a handful of people that would work from home. Now there's like sending, 5,000 people from the call center. Everybody works from home and they're issued a soft phone on a laptop. Well, again, they need to be able to report their location information. And we have a product called Gatekeeper that helps them to get their right location of their home. If they were to make a 911 call from that device, they're going to get the right location information. And we've been partnering with RapidSOS since way back in 2019, like January of 2019. We made the first like NG 911 call where we were able to send additional data to the PSAP. So normally what E911 is, or enhanced 911 is somebody makes a 911 call gets routed to the right place, and we give the 911 operator not just the correct address, but also some kind of a dispatchable location. So it's like it's a high-rise building. We're going to say the call is coming from the 15th floor on the west side of the building or something along those lines. But the really great thing about the partnership with RapidSOS is we can send additional data. So like say there's an IP camera feed or a temperature sensor data or a map of the building or additional contact information, really almost any additional information that the customer wants to send to the public safety answer point or ECC. We have that ability to do that with RapidSOS. And so it's really neat to be able to give the solution to Ian and his team so that again, that peace of mind. That's really what it is. It's I always say this, ideally, I hope no one ever uses my product. Right? Like that would be the best. No one ever uses my product because nothing ever happens. Nobody ever needs an emergency. Nobody ever dials 911. But then if they do dial 911, I'm glad that our solution is the one that's behind it to make sure that the best possible outcome happens. And again, we can't do this all by ourselves. It's not just a 911 secure thing. We have bandwidth.com, obviously RapidSOS. You guys provide a tremendous amount of value. And that's on just the phone system side. And like what Ian was saying about the new part, and the thing that we're so excited about is our GeoCell service, where literally somebody makes an 911 call on a campus and they have a cell phone, Apple or Android device, obviously. We can alert on-site security and say, hey, here's where the call is coming from. And here's a little circle of the area of confidence. And the person doesn't have to opt in. They don't have to download any app. I actually was literally right before this call, I was sending some emails back and forth with a guy down in Texas. He said, oh, we're good. We don't need it because they're just doing the old-fashioned prospecting, sending emails out to colleges, universities. And he's like, we just bought a product and we don't need your service because we have this other product. And I know this product, but it's an app that the user has to download. And they have to remember during that emergency, they have to go to this app and use that app. And it's like, who really is going to do that? Everybody in an emergency, they're just going to pick up their phone and dial 911. And I was like, no, actually, this is what it is. And I haven't heard back from him yet. Well, hopefully maybe he's sent an email back while we've been talking here and I'll have a report later on. But yeah, it's almost unbelievable technology. It's like, is this really happening? Because I said earlier, I've been doing this for 20 years. And one of the very, very first phone calls that I was ever on was, it's great that you can do this for the phone system, but what if somebody makes an 911 call from a cell phone? And it was always like, wah, wah, sorry, there's nothing we can do, da, 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 da. And so when we heard that this was actually a possibility, obviously with you guys in the backbone of this, it was just like, all right, here's the holy grail. The holy grail of 911 has been solved. And so anyway, I'm kind of long-winded. I'll shut up for a little bit.
No, it's fantastic. Appreciate that explanation. Karen, like 911 calls ever come in to a PSAP with no location data?
Oh, never. I was actually going back to my time in the seat and the calls that were misrouted based on, their offices in Boston, as you mentioned, and then those calls get routed to Denver, and then the time that it takes to try to figure out how to get that call to where it actually needs to be and what could be happening to that consumer that's sitting in the middle of that emergency. And I think that there's been some evolution of tools and information available, yet there's still a safety gap that exists. And now really, coming together as companies and partners to help better close that gap for that notification with the right information to the right place at the right time will then help those people that are sitting in the middle of that emergency see those responders much quicker. So yeah, this is it's exciting stuff. And I mean, yeah, y'all have been with us since 2019. I actually remember some of those early days of what is additional data? Well, here's what it looks like. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of joking a little bit about the misrouting of calls, but like in all seriousness,
It's very
given
real.
the environment, the wonderful stuff you do. I mean, this is uh, critical stuff to make sure the call, like the 911 center or the first responders, know exactly where to go. So, maybe elaborate a little bit more about you mentioned your relationship with the first responders locally, and kind of, I'm sure that's very special given what you do and so forth and so on. But how did you go about fostering that? Was it in place when you showed up? Is that something you've built over time? How do they engage with you even when there's not an emergency? And just to build that relationship with your local first responders.
I wish I could take credit for it. It was, I mentioned earlier, we hired a new director of safety, security, and compliance, and his name's Joseph, but he goes by Sap. And Sap really came in and made that a priority to know them and to make sure they knew our campus. And the idea is that we want them to already know the campus before they get their first call here. And so it's simple, but it's very powerful. And so one of the things that we do is we will host them out here periodically, but we also have them come out and bring the fire truck or the police cars, and they'll interact with the kids, and we'll have we got a big cafeteria here, so we're like, come on, stay, have breakfast. There's actually a story of like their shortest response time ever because they had come out for a call. While they were here, we said, "Hey, come on, have breakfast." It turned out to be no big deal. So they stayed to have breakfast. While they were having breakfast, a volunteer fainted in our food service area about 30 feet from where they were eating. So they get a 911 call, and they're like, they can look across and like, okay, we're here. And it's silly, but I think the bigger one is our campus is not very logically, it's not a grid inside it, right? It's very windy roads, and we talk about response time, right? Going to the wrong gate means more traffic to get to the right place, right? Getting them to the most efficient gate. And so that is where SAP, along with others, created these zones across the property in conjunction with Kevin's team, and mapped in all the extra data for what gate should they go to. And that way our team knows which gate they're being dispatched to. So our policy is, our procedure, I should say, is we actually have someone on radio who will go to the gate, open the gate, and then escort them in and take them directly to where they're going. Because it's seconds, and those seconds could be life saving. And so we want to make sure to do that. It's a very, very happy place, but also we need to make sure that they can get care if they need care.
Yeah, I want to jump in here real quick. Going back to when my wife, Audrey, and my 3 kids, Chase, Allison, and Brandon, little shout out to my kids and my wife, when we were there, at one point, and I'm going to start crying. I know I'm going to start crying on this one. My daughter comes up to me and gives me a hug, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is such a great experience. Thank you so much for setting this up. And then we had just gone through the little gift shop, and I was thinking, oh, maybe I should get a shirt and stuff. And I was like, all right, when we leave, I'm going to make sure I go get a shirt. And then all of a sudden my daughter's not there. And I'm like, where did she go? And I was like, and then she's coming back, and she's got this just beautiful smile on her face. And she's got a little bag in her hand, and she bought me a shirt. So So silly,
Oh.
like, right? It's like just a
No,
silly thing, but
not at all.
anyway.
I mean, anytime your kid appreciates you, and I mean, anytime your kid speaks to you, you should be happy about that, right? But
Yeah.
the
Yeah, she
fact
was
that
just a teenager too.
she
Yeah.
gets it, yeah, that's a moment. That's a
It's
moment.
a very special impact that, exposing your child to this environment has given her, and in return, she's gifting you that. I think that's beautiful. Kevin, don't worry, people do not cry alone in my presence. So you're gonna get me here in just a second.
I'm definitely tearing up and
Yeah,
doing my best.
Oh,
I
yeah.
got glasses to hide it, so
No.
yeah.
yeah, no,
I love
Yeah.
the mission alignment between, the two companies, and obviously the kids and the families and who you all are serving, Ian, is, oh God, there's just something really special about that. And, technology sometimes doesn't feel like it really isn't really making an impact. Here, you truly are making an impact, not just in ensuring that your first responders are connected to get to the right place at the right time if an emergency occurs, but all the way through the experience. I was looking at some of the pictures, and you could just see how magical that place and space feels with all of the lights. And I love the wonder that you've created there as well. It's I would love
Great
to come
word.
visit one day.
Yeah, my wife and I are going to be actually going there next week because we're going to be doing some filming. So yeah, it'll be fun for my wife and I to get back out there.
and I think one thing that um, one thing we talk about internally is like this place shouldn't exist. With everything about the world and all the challenges that everybody has and how hard it can be to get people to work together, um, it, I lovingly call it my bubble, right? Because I know the real world is out there somewhere, but in here, it's a bunch of people like Kevin and his whole team that see an opportunity to make a difference and then get involved and do it. It's all those volunteers who are giving up their time. There's volunteers who are here as much as I am, and maybe more. And so just seeing people doing those things and being selfless, and I think it's a good reminder with all the negative that we see in the world that there is some positive out there, and that gives me a little hope.
Well, so Kevin and I, you obviously have a special relationship. The work that you've been doing together. I'm curious, what's next?
I think from our side, the world's changing, whether we like it or not, and we spent some time this week with one of our big partners locally, and they were helping us talk about things like threat assessment and other things that you have to think about. You hope will never happen, right? You really, but you also know that preparedness is key, right? We are in the path of many hurricanes, right? So we do a lot of hurricane preparedness. There's just a lot of other preparedness that we need to do. And um, I've always been that person in life that, like, I worry about something so that it doesn't happen. Right. And then sometimes I get to where it didn't happen and I'm like, I really overreacted, or I worried too much, or I overthought it. But then you can also step back and go, well, actually, it didn't happen because I put all that effort in, and we got everybody together and we talked about it, and we put a plan in place, and so it didn't happen. So um, I think that our one of the areas that we're really thinking about is just how do we keep everybody safe? How do we make sure that holistically, as the world changes and as the needs of the families change, that we can continue to provide them a really safe, really comfortable, really fun place, right? Our tagline is where happiness inspires hope, right? And so, one of our prior safety people used to always say, "If it ain't safe, it ain't fun." Right? If you don't have that safe environment, you can't forget about all the things you've been dealing with. And so I don't know that I have a specific thing right now. I would just say in general, we're trying to keep an eye on the environment and figure out, how do we just make sure that we can do the best we can, and that means, walking the property and looking for potential issues and thinking about those things. Um, I would have said a couple months ago that, man, it would have been great if we could get 911 calls from cell phones. But Kevin, your team, you guys figured that out. So I got to come up with a new list. So
Yeah.
we're living in the future right now.
Yeah, it definitely does feel like that. As far as on the Now and Secure side, it's literally doing stuff like this to spread the word, because there's so many people who just, they don't realize that it's even possible. And I mean, we were at a conference in Atlanta probably about 3 or 4 months ago, and there's colleges and university security officers, like the exact people that we want to be talking to. And there was a guy that was walking by, and he just kind of like glazed by our booth and did. And I was like, hey, you want to get alerted when somebody makes an 911 call from a cell phone? He's like, yeah, wouldn't that be nice? And I was like, no, seriously. And he goes, what? And I was like, yeah, we literally can do that. And he goes, no, you can't. And I was like, no, actually, we actually can. And he goes, yeah, well, I don't want anybody having to download apps or having to opt in and stuff. And I was like, no, that's literally, we just draw a geofence around your campus and hit activate, and you download our software, and it'll pop up when somebody makes an 911 call with a map. And he's like, nah, like it's just like that people just think that it's unbelievably, and there's no way that it's possible. And there's so many calls that I've had where people are just like, how does this is possible? And I was like, well, it's all really because of you guys at RapidSOS. I mean, if you guys weren't there, we wouldn't have a product, because if this technology didn't exist, I mean, we're just consuming it right from you guys. And so that's why, like you were saying, it's a great partnership, and it feels so good to be aligned with a company, like the people of the company, because there's other companies that we've gotten kind of a little down the road with about maybe sharing technology, and then you just kind of get that feeling it's like they're not in it for the same reason that we're in it. They're in it for this. And I'm like, that's not what we're here for. We measure like, money or whatever value is, we're protecting more and more and more people. And that's why we really just want to get the word out that, hey, this technology is available, and it does feel a little bit like magic, but it does actually work. And I remember the very first call that we ever made was I wanted to see how long it took for us to be able to alert people. And it was really, really neat. So I had my phone out on my table, and I was like, all right, I'm going to hit my stopwatch button. When I hear the 911 operator say, 911, what's your emergency? I'm going to hit my stopwatch button and see how long it takes for our beacon screen pop to pop up. And so I'm sitting there, and the guy's like, all right, ready. We're doing a screen share and stuff. And the person who's going to get the beacon, and that's the name of our alerting software, it's going to pop up on his screen. And he's on his speakerphone, and he dials 911. And we had obviously set up a test with the local 911 center. And I hear it ring. Halfway through the first ring, our beacon popped up. Even before the 911 operator answered the phone, and my head about exploded. Every single time I tell people about that, I get goosebumps, because it's just so fast. And again, it's a tribute to your backbone and your technology, and us being able to consume that data and being able to just get that to go so fast. So anyway.
I appreciate that, Kevin. And it's interesting. I'm sure you've had the same feeling as once you know about this and you've seen it, then everywhere you go and everyone you talk to, it's like, why don't you have this? Whether it's a campus or a school, or, my kid's high school, or a large, retailer. You walk into their facility and you're like, okay, what happens if somebody calls 911 from their phone? Are you going to know where they are in this, 300,000 square foot facility?
Or even know about it, right? It's like, that's the thing. You won't even know, because that's the other thing. That's why, onset notification is so important, because so many places it's like somebody makes a 911 call on the campus and they're like, what are you guys doing here? It's like, it's great that they already know, they already be able to do a plan, like get people in the parking lot, just escort and all that stuff. So yeah.
Karen and I talk about that quite a bit. And we hear that from, security professionals, across the country. The knock on the door and didn't even know the call happened at their facility. So appreciate the work you're doing.
Yeah, even the delay when security on site doesn't know what's happening. Fire, EMS, law enforcement shows up on scene and they're like, hey, can you get us in the gate? You need to call security. And so then you're trying to find somebody to answer the phone to get them over to the gate to open the door. So again, you're alleviating all of these delays, and actually human intervention, that manual process where technology can be leveraged to make things so much quicker, and enhance what that experience is really for those in the field, as well as the people that are having the emergency. Because I've been on the other line where people are like, did you send them? They're not here yet. And it feels like a lifetime to a person that's having an emergency, especially medical in nature, but really could be anything. And, you're on the line assuring them that somebody's coming, they're there. You see them on scene, but they're not quite on scene yet because they can't get in the gate. So I love when technology can work together.
As Kevin was speaking, I was reminded of a quote. It was Arthur C. Clarke who said, "Any significantly advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic." And I think that's where we're at, right, Kevin? Which is like, yeah, people don't believe you, and then they see it, and it's pretty crazy. It's very
one thing
magic.
I forgot to even mention about the whole magic thing is not only do we alert people on site, but the coolest thing is we can send information to the ECC. So they actually can get your contact information. So they can be like, all right, there was a call, there was a hang up. Well, maybe they try and call the person back. Well, it's not the last resort of just calling that person back over and over again. They could actually call, Give Kids World Security, get them on the line. So that's another part of it. It's like, wait, how is that even possible? The person has no association with your campus at all. Somebody just literally driving by, maybe they pull into the parking lot and that part of the geofence is in your parking lot and they make a 911 call and then all this stuff happens. It's like, it really does feel like magic.
We had, I don't know, it was maybe 2 weeks ago, and it's just still fairly new for us. And so we're learning it. And there was an alert came up from a cell phone, and our folks called, I'm assuming the PSAP, couldn't figure out what it was. So they sent me an email, which was sort of like hey, the system's not working right. It didn't quite say that, but it was like, hey, the system's not working right, was kind of the implied thing. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't know how good the triangulation and the geolocation and all that is. I'm like, okay, you get a false positive once in a while. 20 minutes later, another email. First responders just showed up. It was right. So it actually was a call from our campus. It was a kid playing with a phone. But they did actually figure out that it did come from our campus. And so that the tech had actually done what it was supposed to do. And it took, it took the humans a little bit to catch up with the tech was right.
I think there's the other part of that, right, is the accuracy, when sometimes the tech actually has all the data and the facts that the human just hasn't been able to interpret just yet.
Well, I think maybe the last point on this is that I think as I talk to people about where I work, and we talk about this notion that like people expect public safety to know if I'm calling from a cell phone where I am. That's just kind of a given in society, and the fact that sometimes you don't, or you don't, is I think shocking to people when you tell them. So I think the common folk they expect this to work this way. And so it's great that it's finally the tech is catching up to those expectations. Want to be mindful of time. So Kevin, let's start with you. People are listening to this. They want to learn more. How do they get a hold of you? What's the best way?
I mean, they can just call me. Go to our website, nowonsecure.com. Go to our contact page. Email me, Kito at nowonsecure.com or sales@nowonsecure.com. My phone number is 626-430-8100. That's literally my cell phone here. And so, yeah, I mean, like I said, just want to spread the word and let people know that this technology is actually available and it actually works and it is amazing. And that word amazing, I only usually talk about my wife with that. I only describe my wife as amazing. But I think that I don't think she'll, and also I don't think I mentioned my wife is our CFO as well. She likes her on her email signature. She says treasurer. She doesn't want to be CFO, but she's an integral part of our company. And again, this is just a joy to be able to provide this solution, provide this technology, and be able to partner with you guys over there at RapidSOS and be able to provide this solution for Ian and the team at Give Kids a World. It's just I told my wife the other day, I was like, I think I won. Like in life, like the stuff that I'm able to do, like I don't have a job. Like I literally, like, especially for the past 8 years when we started the company, I don't have a job. I wake up in the morning and I go get to do this rather than, I have to go do this. So
that's
anyway,
amazing.
That's great.
A great perspective.
Absolutely. And I have to say just one note. I've done a lot of podcasts in my life. You're the second person who's given out their phone number. We had this recently about a month ago. You're talking to an entrepreneur when they're like, "Give me the call. It's my phone right here in my hand. Here's the number."
Yep. You can text me too, obviously. So
I love that.
That's great.
So Ian, Give Kids the World. How do people get involved? Obviously, if they have an unfortunate sick child, or if they want to volunteer or donate, or however, what's the best way to get a hold of you? And
I mean, you can find us online. So we've obviously got a website, gktw.org, mostly because the org name is really long if you try to type it all out, but it does work too. If you're in Central Florida and this stuff interests you, call me. I'd be happy. Or if you're anywhere, but lots of people visit Central Florida, and so if you'd like to see it in action, right, you can call Kevin, and I have great trust in Kevin. But if somebody wants to hear about it from somebody other than the sales guy, I will gladly tell you how much we love it, and you can talk to our team that is on the other side of all of these calls, and you can hear the confidence that they have in knowing what's going on when something happens at the property. And just I encourage everyone that if you haven't found that way to give back yet, to really look for it. Like I said earlier, it actually took me. I did an MBA later in life, and as part of that MBA, there was a philanthropy portion, and that's really when it clicked for me that I could use my professional skills to help the world, not just to build a widget or sell a widget. And that was pretty meaningful. So if I can help somebody find their thing, absolutely reach out. And if you want a phone number, call Kevin.
And I'll get you over to Ian.
That's incredible. Well, Kevin and Ian, deeply appreciate everything you do and who you are, and thank you for sharing your experiences and stories with us today. It was
Thanks for
profoundly
having me.
impactful. So thank you.
Yeah.